Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran. It is kind of late where I'm at and I'm actually really hungry. So I'm gonna try to record this video and try to be as precise with what I say so I can kind of take it in more than one go. I really want to do minimal amount of editing. But Blizzard released a bit more new information that I think a lot of you guys will be very excited for patch 8.2. Now, one of the things that they're doing in 8.2 is they're playing around with the necklace. The necklace right now does nothing, so Blizzard wants to give it some active abilities. You'll be able to earn a lot of these active abilities through different things like dungeons, raids, world content, rep grinds, and one of them will be from doing arenas. Now, this will be a very interesting essence that will have an active and a passive effect. The active effect is it lets you use one of your honor talents in the game. You know how normally you would have war mode on, you can use this out in the world when doing world quests or killing world bosses. You will actually be able to use one of these honor talents in your slot, a specific one that Blizzard picks, however, in dungeons and raid and in any piece of content that you want. This is actually very exciting because I feel like a lot of you guys probably have this one class, one spec, and that one honor talent that you know is busted and you're thinking, oh man, that would be so strong if we got that honor talent. And Blizzard has released a list of the honor talents they have so far. This video I kind of just want to showcase you guys every one of the honor talents for every spec and every class. Talk to you guys just a little bit about every single one of them, if I like them, if I don't, which ones what I think would be better. But this is something just going to be a video to showcase you guys exactly what is going on in the game. Alright, we're going to start with a Demon Hunter, and we're going to go with Vengeance since we're already in Vengeance. For Vengeance Demon Hunter, you get cleansed by the Flame. Immolation Aura dispels all magical effects in your when cast. This is kind of cool, because you can actually get a Dispel. This I think will be really strong in Mythic Plus dungeons. Next, we're going to move on to Havoc Demon Hunter, and they'll probably get the coolest one, Demonic Origins. Without Demonic Origins, Metamorphosis is a 4-minute cooldown, 30-second duration. But with Demonic Origins, you now cut that cooldown and duration in half. It also has a busted combo that I already can think of, together with Chaotic Transformation. Like, if you really want to get the same duration of Metamorphosis, just get Chaotic Transformation. I'm going to build up some resources. I'm going to get I-Beam, meta, into I-Beam. So you get 8 seconds of that into Demonology, into basically almost 30 seconds back up. In this wombo combo, you can actually get those 30 seconds of Metamorphosis back, and you still get that reduced cooldown for it. Next, we're gonna move on to Hunter. Hunters get something really weird, but could be incredibly good. They get Survival Tactics. Why are the mobs all stacked together here, actually? Wait, what? Just walking up a Blueberry. The hell are you doing over there? What is Blueberry doing? How the hell did you get up there? Just knock him off? Hold on. Oh, baby. High explosive trap? What are you doing, guy? What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, bye! Bye-bye, baby! Oh, hell, oh my god, there's so many of them! Are you kidding me? There's so many of these pharaohs, that's not even funny. Holy crap. Oh, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm just gonna run out of here. Oh no. I got one of those guys. Bye-bye, baby. Bye-bye. Oh my goodness, there's 3 pharaohs here just attacking the horde. I'm gonna go to Ogrimmar, dude. I don't want to be here. I don't want to get attacked while doing a video. I'm not in that state of mind. I'm not in that state of mind. So for Hunters, you get Survival Tactics. This one is a very unique one. It has some uses, but not wide. So Hunters generally are pretty good at soaking certain mechanics. Like, as in, you would go and, let's say a certain mechanics happens where a ranged class just needs to go and soak a meteor. If the meteor hits one person, it will do a lot of damage to that one guy. But if it hits the floor, it'll deal damage to everybody. So Hunters will be exceptionally good for soaks. Imagine a Hunter being able to soak every mechanic, making the fight easier so nobody else has to. Just make sure you're not lagging when you are trying to execute the Hunter soaks with Survival Tactics. For Death Knights, we have a weird one, but I guess it kind of makes sense. We have Unholy Command. Death Grip now has 2 charges. That means you can Death Grip twice. Simple. For Death Knights, you usually are not a fast class. At most, with Death's Advance, that's the fastest you can run. So having 2 Death Grips Could be good in Mythic Plus dungeons to reposition mobs around. It could be good in some certain raids to reposition mobs around as well. Having a second charge gives you a little bit more of that mobility to move an enemy over to you. Then we're gonna get into the weird one. We have the Frost Death Knight. With Frost Death Knight, you get Chill Streak. This one is weird. It's 45-second cooldown, so it's a pretty hefty cooldown. Now, I tested this ability. If you throw it at a boss, it doesn't bounce between the boss. It just hits the boss once. Where this will be good in AoE. For example, if I just AoE these guys, Chill Streak, it'll just bounce between these two guys and do percentage damage over and over and over. Outside of that, it's just a weird ability. It seems like it's a very AoE heavy focused. Frost Death Knights already have Frostwind's Fury, which does good AoE damage. You have Breath of Sinterghost that does good AoE damage. You have Frost Scythe that does AoE cleave damage. You have Gathering Storm if you want to Remorseless Winter for AoE damage. So this is another one for AoE. I would have said maybe something like a... Actually, I don't even know what will be good. Then we have the Unholy Death Knight, and this one is even weirder. You would think, oh, guess what? Raise Abomination. Shorter cooldown than the Army of the Dead. Instead of the 10-minute excruciating cooldown, now I get a big fat boy to wail on my enemies. No, it's actually Necrotic Strike. Why Blizzard thought Necrotic Strike would be a great ability for PvE content, I don't understand. What Necrotic Strike does, and how it's different to Scourge Strike will do physical damage, a bit of shadow damage, it'll burst one of these Festering Wounds. So Scourge Strike procs the Festering Wound. Necrotic Strike doesn't proc it. So you just get this healing reduction on a boss. So this is a really weird one, unless you have a boss or an ad that used to be like healer suppressed. This is really awkward. I would have thought maybe Raise Abomination would have been a much better option. Next, we're going to talk about Warlocks. For a Demonology Warlock, you get... Let me double check here. Okay, this one is an interesting one. You get Nether Ward. Nether Ward is your Reflect. For 3 seconds, you reflect all abilities that go to you. In a sense, I could see certain boss mechanics and dungeon mechanics where you could actually reflect the spell back at the enemy. So Nether Ward has some of that reflective capability if something targets you. But it's definitely a really weird one. It has some uses, but... at least it's not destruction. For destruction Warlocks, you get Demon Armor. You get Demon Armor in dungeons and raids. Protects the caster, increasing maximum health, so I guess you can survive certain mechanics. And increases armor. This is great if you get attacked by melee or adds, but you're not a tank. This is great if there's some kind of AoE damage that's pure physical, where armor can block it. I doubt there's gonna be a lot of those. Blizzard balances like AoE damage around like Clothies as well as Plate. Yes, some classes are gonna take sometimes more damage, sometimes less, but generally it's balanced out where I don't think as a Warlock you're just gonna be able to turn the tide. Very defensive one, probably one of the weirder ones. I feel like definitely they couldn't have done Focus Chaos. That would have been way too much damage, way too strong though. I feel like something like a Bane of Havoc would have been really strong. Replace Havoc, so instead of Havoc in one target, you can have this massive AoE if you wanted. That would have been really, really powerful and really cool. Affliction Warlocks are no different. They also got a really weird choice. I don't really know who's picking these at Blizzard, but they got Endless Affliction. So, normally without Endless Affliction, so normally as a Warlock you maintain your dots. You just put one dot, like Corruption, Agony, and then you put up UA whenever that's up. UA has an effect where enemies take 10% more damage, and you kind of want your UAs to kind of just tick out. You want to make sure to refresh it as close as you can, and then you have Shadow Bolt as a filler ability. Endless Affliction, you do the same amount of damage, just it's stretched out over 6 seconds. So in a sense, I kind of want to wait for the dot to fall off here. So in a sense, when you pop UA, it lasts far longer, but it doesn't hit harder. You just basically are prolonging its duration. So I talked to some of the Warlocks that said that technically UA prolonging is a damage loss, but maybe it might have some uses. At least Blizzard's kind of playing with, out of all the other Warlocks, this one actually might have some sort of interesting play to it. Yeah, but from the Warlocks that I've talked already, they said this looks like a DPS loss, but they could be wrong. Now, Mages got some really awesome ones. I'm actually very excited to show you Mages. So Mages, we're going to start with Frost. For the first one, for Frost Death Knight, you get Concentrated Coolness. This means 10% more damage for your Frozen Orb, and you don't have to roll the Frozen Orb, you just place it where you want it. So you'll be able to simply just plop it in, and you can do damage anywhere you want to, and I think this will be very powerful, very strong. I'm actually very excited about how this one plays out. So this one is straight up just a DPS increase no matter what you say, just a flat DPS increase. Next we're gonna go with Arcane. Arcane gets Arcane Empowerment. Clear Castle now stacks 2 additional times, so you can have 3 stacks of Clear Casting, and increases the damage of Arcane missiles by 5% per stack. Clear Casting no longer reduces the mana cost of Arcane Explosion. This is going to be really good if you want a purely single target build, and maybe something like a amplification focused build. We just want to do the most amount of damage Arcane style. You got 1 proc, you get a second, gonna get a third. Oh yeah, here we go. And I'm just gonna pop big damage here. So you could go for some kind of a build with Arcane Missiles, which is actually kind of competitive with Arcane Blast now. But the outright best one, the purely best, this is actually the best choice, is gonna be my Fire Mage. I don't have my build set up at all or anything, but it's gonna be, what is it? Where is it? Flame Cannon. After standing still in combat, which most of the time is as a mage, you just kind of stand still in Fireball, in PvE at least for the most part. After standing still for 2 seconds, your maximum health is increased, your damage is increased by 3%, and the range of your spells is increased by 3 yards. This effect stacks up to 5 times. So at 5 stacks, I get 15% more health, 15% flat damage increase, and the range of my spells is higher. Just for standing still. Mages with Shimmer, especially, can already stand still and just cast the whole team. You don't need to move at all. You don't need to move whatsoever. Like, it just keeps refreshing on its own. This is just a 15 DPS increase. 15% more damage just because. Next, we're going to look at the Shaman. And for the Shamans, we're going to start with Elemental. For Elemental, Blizzard went with a weird option of Lightning Lasso. Again, not really sure how they're going to make those percentage damage abilities work. But 30-second cooldown, 20 yards, channeled, grips the target with lightning, stunning the target, dealing 40% of target's maximum health in nature damage over 5 seconds. Can you use this on these trained dummies? You can. So you can move while having a target stunned. In Mythic Plus situations, I could definitely see this work, but in raids I can't. I think there's a lot of other options, maybe like Skyfarer Total would have been broken if you could do that. For Enhancement Shamans, I know it looks like let me just put some one-handers in here just so it looks like I know what I'm doing. For Enhancement Shamans, they decided to give them Ride the Lightning. If there are more than 2 enemies within 8 yards, when you cast Storm Strike, you also cast Chain Lightning on target, dealing a fair amount of nature damage. Otherwise, you conjure Bolts of Lightning up to 2 furthest enemies within 40 yards, dealing nature damage. This one could be really good in Mythic Plus scenarios. Prior, you would just be able to sunder a bunch of enemies, and that was your burst damage. But now with this chain lightning, you could actually get some real solid damage in on a group of enemies. The more enemies stack up, the more damage you do. I actually very, very much like this playstyle, especially since you can kind of just have things proc off of one another with Stormkeeper, and you do all the AoE damage and then more Stormkeeper procs. I feel like this actually would be really, really busted, because look how much damage it does. If I didn't have it, that's 242k of my damage gone. My DPS would be so much lower, and I'm barely keeping up 30k. Where with some of the other classes, you can maintain 30k easily. Every time you Stormkeeper, you send these bolts to other people. As you can see, they just kind of spread all over the place. I think this could be really good if, again, if more than one enemy, if you're fighting more than one enemy. Like I say, there's a couple different bosses all over the place and the kind of distance. Look, Fort Lightning does most of my damage. I'm using base abilities, and Fort Lightning besides Storm Strike is actually doing the most amount of damage of everything I'm putting out so far. Are you kidding me? This is insane. This is actually kind of cool looking and kind of fun, honestly. Finally, we have Ancestral Gift for Restoration Shamans. You become immune to silence and interrupts for 5 seconds after using Spirit Walker's Grace. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool. If there's any aspects, because I think you can use this mid-cast, can't you? Cause upon, while you castable while casting. So you can use this mid-cast. So if let's say there's a mechanic that would silence you as a shaman, like in Mythic Pluses, I guess you can save yourself from being interrupted during a crucial cast, but this one is kind of situational. Next up, we have Shadow Priest, and let me make sure I have it here. Void Origins. You get Void Origins. This one is not the greatest. Void Eruption is an insta-cast, which is kind of nice. You remove the cast of the Void Eruption ability. The thing is, though, normally when you cast Void Bolt, or Void Eruption. Afterwards, right after it's done casting, you can cast Void Bolt immediately. When you have this as an instant cast, then it takes actually 2 globals. So you still would be spending the same amount of globals using the same ability. All you're doing is eliminating the cast time. So I guess less chances for you to get interrupted. Kind of a weird option. Not really sure if I feel like it'll be that useful. Next, we're gonna have Holy, and we got Rapid Mending. With Rapid Mending, your Prayer of Mending is now instant cast, and a jump range is increased by 10 yards. Can I use this on these guys? Yeah, so it'll bounce around and it has a higher range. I guess it's cool. I feel like for Mythic Plus or raid situations, just having this ability on an instant is going to be kind of nice for Holy Priests. Just to get those prayer mendings out and jump in between groups, no matter how close or far apart they may be. And then we get Discipline. With Discipline, we get Premonition, which I don't really know what to, I don't know what to think of Premonition really. So, it's a 12-second cooldown, very low mana cost, heals nearby targets within 20 yards for 8k, and applies atonement to yourself. Deals shadow damage to yourself for each atonement you have active, and increases their durations by 5. So in a sense, this is a way to prolong atonement. So, for example, I'm going to have this guy. I use this ability, and it should do shadow damage to me and prolong atonement. So I guess in a sense, you're kind of sacrificing some of your own health. And my main question is also just how much shadow damage do you really take? Hold on, I really want to try this again. I'm gonna pop this, and I guess we'll just put atonement on myself. We're gonna use this ability. And it did how much shadow damage to me? What happened to me? Permission hit me for 11 shadow damage. So it's very, very little damage. You would use this to prolong your atonements that are already existing, which I guess is kind of cool. You do a bit of shadow damage. That was weird, because this has a definite use for PvP. You would use this where it would deal damage back to you, you would get sapped, or you would get hit with a pyramid or a polymorph, then deal damage to yourself to break yourself out of that effect. For how this is going to work in dungeons and raids, I'm not really 100% sure. I do wonder what happens if you put up a full raid of 20 people with atonement and you blast premonition. Do you just like blast yourself for 20k health or something? That would be hilarious. I feel like something would have been a much better choice. Maybe would have been like Archangel, Purification. I don't really Purified Soul. So every time you dispel somebody, you put up Absorb. That would have been cool. Searing Light would have been cool, so you do more damage with Smite, maybe for like a more DPS heavy build. I guess there's a couple different options, but I don't know how I feel. You guys let me know. All right, on to Monks. Monks get a really weird one. You get Reverse Harm. What can I say? Like, with Monks, I'm trying to find a way to make this one good. So Monks, normally you would, let's say, you go to the boss, you would go spend a bunch of your chi, you would get a bunch of damage. But let's say you need to swap to another boss. All the way while you're, I'm just gonna walk, while you're running, you can't really jab the enemy, right? You can't really generate resources, you're capped on energy, you're kind of just like, trying to, okay, now I can start spending my energy, now I can do the damage. So this way you'll be able to kind of like when you're swapping and running to the target, you'll be able to spend that energy. Heal yourself while building chi on 10-second cooldown. I guess what it also does is how much of damage it heals you for. It also will reflect back to the enemy. So how much did it hit the enemy? It actually hit him for a fair amount. It hit him for 4k, which is a little bit more than my current Rising Sun. So the more it heals you for... Heals you for 8%. Anyway, this is kind of a weird one with Reverse Harm. The other specs actually have some stuff that's solid. For Mist River, you get the best one ever. You get Way of the Crane. The Crane is going to be a hefty amount of mana. It's actually like 25% of your mana or something crazy like that. But, oh, I need mana for it actually. Oh, okay. I'm lacking on that mana. Let me pop a staff just to, I don't know if it helps that much. But, minute cooldown, 15-second duration. Increase your physical damage by 50%, remove and becoming immune to all snares and roots so you can move around. Heal up to 3 nearest allies for 150% of the all damage done. This is obviously a Mythic Plus choice, and it's really, really cool. I'm gonna pop it here, just do a bit of AoE here, bit of an AoE, damage here, bop. And actually, like, healing this Feral right now for a fair amount of damage. I kind of like it. If you get a bunch of Blackout kicks saved up, get real lucky on Rising Sun kicks, this is awesome. I feel like that is really, really cool. I can't see how much healing it actually did to the guy. but you can see it did a fair amount of damage. Also, I'm not even max level, so like a max level would be even better. Now for Brewmasters, and I don't really know Brewmaster that well. I used to play this class a fair amount, but not as much anymore. Purifying Brew deals 30% of your purified stagger damage to all enemies within 10 yards. So monks, as they take damage, a portion of it goes to stagger, and it really just staggers the damage. You stagger the damage. You will take, let's say, 20% of a hit to the face as a damage over time for later. So monks have a really good with damage smoothing, so they can smooth it out. You would use a couple brews, Iron Skin, to increase the how much stagger you can take. So then you stagger way more going to stagger rather than into your health. And then this other one clears 50% of your damage delayed with stagger. So 50% of the stagger. If you can get a huge stagger buff, you can actually do quite a bit of damage. It deals 30% of all the purified stagger damage, with monks always taking damage in purify and using purifying brews to take it off as often as they do. You could actually do quite a bit of damage. I don't know how much damage, this would need to be tested, but this actually is really useful. It could be good for single target, it could be good for AoE, but this one works simply by making your purification where you take off damage, or take off the damage you take, and rather you kind of just apply it to anybody around you in AoE. I think it's actually kind of cool. It's a unique ability, and it actually has some uses because it has a bit of damage increase based on stagger, so it could be more if you stagger more, if that makes any sense. For rogues, we're just like hunters. We just got one ability for all 3 specs, and that is Smoke Bomb. A lot of rogues have been asking for Smoke Bomb to come back as an ability that rogues can use in maybe dungeons and raids. And while, but not iterations of Smoke Bomb where, let's say, reduce the damage that people took while inside a bomb by like 10%, were a lot better for utility in PvE, the current Smoke Bomb simply just doesn't do that much. 3-minute cooldown with an 8-yard range or radius for 5 seconds creates line of sight, so enemies can't see into the Smoke Bomb or out of it. Now on its face, you will feel like this is useless. When are you going to use this? It doesn't have the same benefits like 10% damage reduction or whatever it used to do from previous X-Packs, but this one could be good in some situations. I'm mostly looking at Mythic Pluses, maybe certain raids, but you basically are creating line of sight to bosses and dungeon mobs. Let's say there's a powerful cast that would otherwise wipe you out your group, drop down Smoke Bomb at the last moment, the enemy has to stop casting, move over in melee range, start casting it again. This could be used to dodge certain abilities. I can think of a few bosses where they would have a linear attack, and normally you would either have to pop a defensive or use a dodge ability. But what happens if you create a line of sight between the boss and yourself when they're about to use that one ability? That's what I'm thinking. It could potentially be broken. We don't really know how broken it will be, but this has potential. I won't say it's good on its own. It has potential. I think it's cool that Rogue's getting a Smoke Bomb just because it's such a cool looking iconic ability, but this could be good in some situations. I actually really want to test it out myself whenever it comes out in patch 8.2 to try to see if there's ways where anywhere where you could abuse this in one way or another. Very excited. This one's kind of like a 50-50. I'm personally excited for what potentially could do, but it could be like one of those things where bosses ignore this and then it's kind of useless. But I don't think they will do that. Come on, it's Blizzard. They would totally never, ever do that. Sarcasm. And then we have Druids. For Druids, they literally did the whole enchilada. Probably some of the best auto talents you could think of. At this point, you're going to have to bring a Feral Druid and a Balanced Druid into every raid. And I'll show you guys in a bit why. Let's first take a look at what everybody gets. Restoration Druid. Overgrowth. It's a pretty costly spell. It's supposed to be like 35% of your mana, 30% of base mana, a 45-second cooldown, instantly applies Life Bloom, Rejuvenation, Wild Growth, and Regrowth, heal overtime effects to the target. So if there's a tank or an ally that just needs emergency heals, you can just pop every single hot on them. Can you maintain more than one Life Bloom then? No, so that's Life Bloom is actually going to swap to whoever. So I think this was something you would want to use on a tank from time to time. 45-second cooldown just to apply everything in the world on him at once. It has some good uses. It could be really good as an emergency heal, but I was wondering if it will let you use 2 different Life Blooms. That would have been awesome, but it doesn't, so I don't really know how good it could be. Next, we got the Guardian Druid. For Guardian Druids, they decided to go with Sharpened Claws. Maul increases the damage done by your swipe and thrash by 25% for 6 seconds. Maul is the ability that costs a bit of rage. Is this one over here? And normally most people don't ever use it. Most people usually sink the rage into either Iron Fur, maybe Frenzied Regen if you really need it. But now with Maul, your swipe and thrash will just do more damage. So you maul, you swipe, you thrash, you swipe some more, you swipe again, you maul, you thrash, you swipe, you moonfire, you swipe again, you maul, and you do actually quite a bit of damage with thrash and swipes. I guess you'll be able to get we aggro a little bit better as a druid and maybe do a bit more damage. Does this do anything for incarnation? Abilities growl, cause a mangle to hit 3 targets. No, so this is just a full swipe build. Nobody ever brings feral druids to PvE content ever, but now you're gonna have to because of where is it? Leader of the pack. While cat form, you increase the melee and ranged critical chance of raid members within 40 yards by 5%. 5% more crit for the whole raid. Leader of the pack also causes afflicted targets to heal themselves for 4% of maximum health when they critically hit with a melee or ranged attack. Now, this one doesn't counter spells. It says ranged to like a hunter attack or melee, so any melee attack you can think of. This doesn't count for spells. So if you want your melee classes to do 5% more crit, which is huge, have a chance to heal themselves every time they crit for every 6 seconds. This is insane. I think everybody's gonna want a feral, especially if you got a lot of melee in your group. But who could forget about boomkins? Boomkins are also really good, right? Everybody likes boomkins. And what do they get? They get Moonkin Aura. Surge grants 4% critical strike chance to 8 allies within 40 yards for 18 seconds. So if you have a group like a raid or a dungeon that's very caster heavy, you might want to bring Moonkin Aura. So you can stack it up to 3 times 18-second cooldown. I don't think you can refresh it, but I could be wrong. Let me be the first time I was wrong. Let me Star Surge. So I get 4% crit. And again, 7%, 8% crit. Can you maintain it at all times? Wait, if I use this. You can maintain 12% crit to allies at all times as long as you Star Surge. 12% crit to every caster in your group. This is insane. You're gonna bring a druid for the melee and a boomkin for the casters. Whether it's healers, whether it's whatever. This is actually gonna be all inking. This is nuts. Druids are gonna be a must-have. Kind of like how you already have demon hunters a must-have, mage is a must-have, warrior is a must-have, monk is a must-have, and now you have to have one of each druids, a feral and a boomkin. This is absurd. This is actually absurd. Oh man, doing this video, we're getting down towards the last few classes, and it's late, and I'm still hungry, and I gotta edit this video, but it's gonna be a lot of fun putting it together. As we're moving on to the Paladin. Paladins, we got very interesting choices. All but one, I say, are actually somewhat kind of good. For protection, you get Steed of Glory. Steed lasts for an additional 2 seconds. While active, you become immune to movement impairing effects, and you knock back enemies that you move through. So as a Paladin, you can literally just blast through enemies. You just run through them and knock them back. Well, I'm not going to do all this train dummies. That's not going to happen here. But in Mythic Plus situation where you need to clear the room, clear the adds, and move them out, maybe like for Sanguine or you got Necrotic, Grievous, to just blast the adds backwards to knock them around, you could do that as a prot pally. Don't know how many options are going to be for raids, but in Mythic Pluses, this definitely could be actually kind of good. It lasts a little bit longer, so you have a bit extra mobility. You're immune to any kind of slow, so you can really move around the battlefield, and if you go for the double charge with Cavalier, this could actually be a solid option. Moving on, we have Holy Paladin with Divine Favor. Divine Favor is a fairly short ability, and it has a pretty good effect to it. Your next Holy Light or Flashlight is increased by 100, costs no mana, and is usable and is unable to be interrupted. So that's really good. And it's something that stays in you, by the way, so it doesn't come off cooldown unless you actually cast it, but it's gonna do far more healing than normally it does. Where normally it would do something like 4k, so it does 100 more healing. Instant. Cannot be interrupted. This could be good in certain Mythic Plus situations, certain race situations, where you need that big emergency heal to help an ally. Can you get it to a flashlight does more healing or more likely to crit? Your Divine, isn't that a thing for Paladins? Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna get that Divine Favor and see if I can flashlight myself for 19k. For my health number with 35k, 19k was a huge portion of my health. So this could be really strong for Holy Paladins. For Retribution Paladins, you don't really have the best. This one is, it's Unbound Freedom. Also increases movement speed by 30. This one, off the bat, I want to say it's bad, but I'm trying to look at all the viable solutions for it. So, Hand of Freedom is a great ability. A lot of Paladins have it. Prot, Holy, Ret, all 3 specs have it. Retribution gets 30% movement speed. So, in a sense, I guess you could use it as just a, like, let's say 2 charges of Horse are down. I'm just going to cancel them. Let's say, oh, no charges of Horse. Get that mobility in there. Yeah, you're actually running pretty quick. Has a fairly short cooldown of 25 seconds, so you can use it pretty often. Cooldown. If you want a mobility-based ability, I would still say there's other classes that have better mobility, like Feather from Priest or Tiger's Lust from Monk. But I guess it's cool that a Paladin has it. Retribution Paladins of their own are pretty slow, so wheelchair Paladins will be able to use this in dungeons and raids in order to get around a little bit easier. Plus, when you give Hand of Freedom to somebody who's, let's say, is rooted, they have more mobility to get out of more bad. So I guess this is passively good. And finally, we have the Warrior, and they're really fun. So the Warrior is a prot. You get Thunderstruck. Thunderclap roots targets for 1 second. This is kind of I don't really know how I feel about it. Could be really good in Mythic Plus situations. It definitely you won't be able to use this in raids, but this will be kind of nice when cutting enemies in Mythic Pluses, right? You can just stay right out of their reach, Thunderclap, run by them, pop that root for a second, get the slows going, and you can, I guess, kind of, maybe you can even add Blessing of Freedom, stomp a lot more often, and just kind of kite enemies around you. I guess that would be a way to go on about it. That's not the worst. You won't be able to do this on bosses, but you'll be able to use it on non-boss enemies. Has some uses, maybe. I don't really know how I feel. Yeah, this one was alright. It's not the worst. This one was okay. For Arms Warriors, however, you get Sharp Blade. This one is actually really good. Let me just say this. So, what if you were to go for Overpower? What are the chances for Overpower to proc? Do I need to use abilities for it to proc? Yeah, Overproc. Then bam, pop Trinket or something. Sharpen Blade. Bam, biggest mortal strikes on a boss ever. I feel like this will be kind of cool and easy to line up. It's also off the GCD, I'm pretty sure. So 15% more damage for your mortal strikes on a 25-second cooldown. Yes, please. I think this would be really good, especially if you can line up some really good overpower procs with it. So this is just a damage increase. It's not bad. What else could have... I don't even know what else could have been done that's different, but I think it's kind of cool. I like it. And then finally we have Fury. Now as Fury, I know what you're thinking. Death Wish. Please let it be Death Wish. Please let it be Death Wish. The amazing ability of Death Wish, just to be able to clobber through every enemy. Just sacrifice my health for like what? Is it 50% more damage? You get Battle Trance instead. Now this one is not bad, not the worst. You go into trance, causing your into a trance after using 2 Raging Blows. Okay, so you go into a trance, regenerating health, and rage every 3 seconds. How much rage regen is that actually? Raging Blow, Raging Blow. Let me just spend this rage real quick. So you generate through auto attacks, I'm pretty sure, but you get just a little bit more from Blade. Rage over time, and all you have to do is just make sure to line up those Raging Blows right after another. And actually you can maintain it at all times, can't you? Wait, my second one is going to be able to do it. No, it has to be like consecutively back to back. In a row. Oh, so you have to have 2 Raging Blows back. Like, so Raging Blow, Raging Blow. And then basically just want to maintain this. And you may want to make sure you have 2 charges of Raging Blow in case you need to refresh it. Oh, this is interesting. So this is definitely going to mess with your rotation a little bit. It's definitely going to give you a little bit more abilities to play with. Just because now you have to maintain this buff at all times for a bit more rage. You know, while it doesn't seem like, you know, 5 rage every 3 seconds is a lot, I feel like for a Fury Warrior with just how much rage you build and spend and build and spend, this could actually go a long way. It's not the worst ability, but definitely something like a Death Wish would have been amazing. Maybe even a Slaughterhouse. Bloodthirst deals up to additional 50% damage and healing when it hits a target under 50% health, reducing its remaining cooldown by 1 second. That could be insanely good. Enduring Rage to increase the duration of your rage would be busted strong. But this one was not the worst. This is actually not that bad, I think. Well, with that being said, ladies and gents, this is all the abilities that we have so far for the necklace, the essence that is coming out that we'll be able to use an honor talent within other talents. This is really cool. I like that Blizzard is messing with the stuff, and of course there's a lot of things to iterate for. When taking a look at a lot of these classes, some of them actually have good viable alternatives for the honor talents that Blizzard picked. Some Blizzard picked and they're amazing, they're broken, and Blizzard might want to pick something else because they're just too good. For others, they pick not the best options. For like a damage dealer to do more damage, they don't have like a damage option. They just give you like a armor, like demon. I honestly, destruction warlock with extra armor and health. I guess you'll be able to survive mechanics easier with 10% more health, but like, I don't really know why that would be worth. Maybe you could soak a mechanic with this, I guess. Then of course you have the hunter, you have the rogue with the smoke bomb and feigned death, 99% damage reduction. Both of those are very unique, very interesting. I'm very interested to see how you might be able to use those and see if there's a way to abuse them. See if there's a way to use it in a way where it gives you like a crazy advantage inside of a raid or inside of a dungeon. I think it'll be really cool. Besides that, a lot of them are really cool ideas, and Blizzard definitely has a bit to go in order to customize them as best as possible. Maybe with this we'll see some new honor talents being added to some of the specs in order to give everybody a good ability to use. Some of them, like the Havoc one for just Warlocks, where Chaos Balls deal more damage, but they can be Havoc to an extra target. That'll be way too strong. There's no way they could let that go live, but we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you think about every single one of the honor talents that Blizzard has right now, and which ones would you change, but which ones are you happy or surprised by in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. Please give this video a like for staying up this late without any food, working on this video for you guys. That would be very much appreciated and would definitely boost my self-confidence in this. Thank you all, and I'll see all of you guys in another video.